And once again, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Buffalo History Channel. This is actually going to be the first actual recording of the Buffalo History Channel for 2022. So let me just say Happy New Year to all of you who've been supporting the channel for the last couple of years. I know you had a chance to see when we've opened up the year, and we had our very first production for 2022. It was actually our fifth original production, The Soul of Buffalo TV. And that actually has something to do with the video that we're going to be doing here. We did an unprecedented look at the origins of the Black media within the city of Buffalo. And if you looked at the video, we made mention of someone among many people. There was one lady that we made mention of, and we actually in the past couple of months or so, I've had an opportunity to learn a lot more about her. Her daughter reached out to me and told me all about the work of Juanita Young. And I am very happy to have join me on the Buffalo History Channel, the daughter of Juanita Young, Marcia Allen, and her son, Brian. Marcia, Brian, welcome to the Buffalo History Channel.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Glad to be here.
Okay, it's definitely a pleasure. Marcia, you sent me a number of materials on your mother. I remember seeing her name written on a few documents when I was working on the documentary on the Build organization. And I kind of came as we were doing the research for the Soul of Buffalo TV, saw her name in a few places as well. Didn't know a whole lot about her. I thought she was just another reporter, but after I saw all the stuff that you sent me, I just said, wow, she has a lot more significant in the Buffalo area and in Black media than I thought she was. And we're going to talk about that here tonight. We're going to tell the story of Juanita Young. So can we first start off by, I want to ask, because I know she's certainly done a lot in the Buffalo media. Talk to us about what first got her involved in the Buffalo media.
You know, that's hard to say. She was always involved in the community. We used to live in the Talbot Mall, Jefferson. And so she did a lot there with the youth. As far as her actual introduction into the media, I think she started maybe with WUFO or WBFO back then.
It says WBFO.
BFO, okay.
Yeah.
And I believe that was University of Buffalo's radio station.
Okay.
Yeah, through UB.
Mm-hmm.
So she was on. She had a program, if I'm not mistaken, and it's been so long ago. It's hard to remember.
Yeah, I see here in what you sent me. It was called, the program was called Woman on the Go. It was the WBFO. It was run through, and at the time, I guess it was run through Jefferson Avenue satellite. They had a satellite studio on Jefferson Avenue. Seems like that's where she started at.
Okay, yeah, you're probably right.
Okay.
As I said, I don't remember all the specific details, but yeah, she started there. And in that article that I sent you, you know, it kind of gave a lot of information about, you know, her involvement. From there, she moved to WGR. And from what I can recall, there was a drive-by shooting, and a young man lost his life, and she went on WGR TV, if I'm correct, in order to speak to the community about that. I think she had the mother of the young man who was killed, and I don't remember their names.
Mm-hmm.
And if I recall, that's what kind of started her TV career, her television career with WGR TV. So from that, you know, speaking to the community and offering her condolences to the family of the young man who was killed, I think WGR kind of picked her up and decided to employ her. And I might be wrong, but
yeah, she was the She
that,
says here, you sent in the documents you sent me, she said, it says here that she was the community affairs director for the
yes,
television. And and I know from working in television myself, that's a pretty significant, a pretty key role to be in, because you're basically dealing directly with the community at large. So if there's any type of events or anything going on in the community, you're basically the go-to person. You're the one that basically is going to have, more so than like the reporters and the anchors, you're going to pretty much have your finger on the pulse of the community, basically. And also, as I looked at it, for her to just be in that position and to also be given the opportunity to have her own television show. And from looking at some of the pictures she had, it looks like she had a better job than some of the reporters did.
I think in some cases she did. Yeah, she had a lot of wonderful people on her show. Every so often, my sister and I would go down to the station when she did a taping and meet some of those celebrities and politicians and people in the community. But yeah, she did. She covered a lot of territory in her television show.
Yeah, I'm looking at some now. But before I get to these photos, you sent me a video, a rare video clip of the show was called Take a Look, and you sent me it was a video, probably the only one that exists. And as the audience is looking at it, we certainly will, of course, we'll apologize for the video distortion, but I mean the audio comes out really clear. And she's interviewing actually has a white lady on here talking about Africa. Yeah. Along with a high school student. And
yeah, she had a lot of people. This woman was from New York, and I can't remember her name. The video doesn't start at the beginning, so we missed the introduction.
Right.
She wrote a book about Africa, and she was a mathematician, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And so the connection was Africa Counts, I think was the name of her book.
Yes, it was.
And my mother thought that was interesting, that she looked at Africa from a mathematical perspective. Very interesting that recording was. Yeah.
Claudia, why did they ignore the historical facts about Africans, the Black African in America and the African on native soil? Because, as you said in your first segment, that many archaeologists have, they found many artifacts from the Egyptians, which were Africans who were Black, and in this country they had been changed, their complexion changed historically, and they were supposed to be Caucasians, but we all were interrelated. The Egyptian culture and the African culture are interrelated because they were of Negroid stock. They were not Caucasians. And I wonder why, with all of this in this book, Africa Counts, it was just completely left out. And it just seems like it's just so ludicrous.
Right. We know that about the 15th century, that Africans had developed societies that were certainly on the par with European and more advanced. Some African societies were more advanced than some European societies. We know that in Timbuktu, for example, what is called the university, right? And Europeans came there for eye operations. We know that happened. But at this time, slavery started. Now, in order to justify slavery, it was necessary for the Europeans. They found it necessary to downgrade everything African.
I have a theory. And I've always had the theory since I was mature enough to know what blackness was all about, that actually we weren't sold to be indentured servants. We were sold to use our brains. No matter what country the black slaves went to, that country became a better country because of our knowledge and our wisdom. European countries never flourished until the black man arrived. Right. So I don't think that they sold us to cook and sew, which they didn't. They took us for our mind.
Absolutely.
And they still need us in America today.
It puts history in a different place, and especially since Buffalo is becoming more and more filled with more and more black students, and the population of black students in Buffalo is growing up, I think it would be interesting for them to find out the history of mathematics coming from their own country.
Very well put.
Yeah, and mathematics is a very appropriate topic. And I'm looking at some of the pictures that you sent me. This picture here apparently was one of her more You told me that this was one of her most meaningful when she had at the time, I think at the time he was vice president or presidential candidate Hubert Humphrey.
Right. He was vice president under Lyndon Johnson. And then after he ran for Senate and became a senator. So he was, I think they referred to him as vice president slash Senator Hubert H. Humphrey. And he was on her show early 70s. I guess it was probably around 1971 or so.
Yep, October 22nd. He sent a letter to her thanking her for having him on her show. It's dated October 22nd, 1971.
Right, yeah. Really nice letter that he sent, talking about the significance of her show and the fact that we need more like that around the country that address the topics of the Black community and just, you know, people of color. So yeah, that was a real prideful thing for her. I have the photo. I should have had it here in front of me, but it's a big photograph.
Yeah, we have it right here.
Yeah. I mean the letter, because
the letter, yes.
Yeah, the letter and the picture and letter he sent to the station, to her at the station, and she still has it today, we still have it today. You know, she passed on. Yes,
and we also have she also had as a guest on her show the lovely Bernadette Stannis, who we all know as Stelma from Good Times.
Yeah, she did. She had quite a few celebrities on, but yeah, she had Bernadette Stannis on. She had Sister Sledge, the singing group. They were on the show. I remember going down to the station to meet them. She had B.B. King. She had just lots and lots of different, you know, that was the thing about her show. She dealt mostly with community problems and community issues, but then she would have celebrities like Shirley Bassey was on her show. I remember us going to the airport to meet her, and you know, later she did the taping of Take a Look. And who else did she have on? She had
I have a picture here of her on set with Julian Bond and Larry Wilkerson.
Right. Now, Senator Julian Bond, who was I think he was from Georgia, a real great minority advocate for minorities, who later became senator. And she had Gladys Knight and the Pips on, maybe just Gladys Knight. I can't remember if the Pips were there or not.
Okay. She had Jesse Jackson. Oh, there's a picture of her with Jesse Jackson.
She had Jesse Jackson, and so many that I can't remember. Her show ran for several years. So during that time, and it was a weekly TV show. Mm-hmm. So during that time, as you can imagine, she amassed a large number of people from the community, from our country. Even I think Shirley Bassey was from England or Wales. So she had people from everywhere, all walks of life on her TV show.
As I was looking at the tape, I found it was interesting how she has her show set up. She obviously has a studio audience, and it looks like she, like, almost on the set, she has like a few children gathered around on her set. And
depending on the topic, she would have young people on it. In the case of that particular show, one of her panelists was a high school student. So she had other high school students on. I remember one in particular, one show she had, it was about the La Leche League, which was the organization of breastfeeding mothers. Okay. And so she had people on, and I remember me and a friend of mine who had just had our children. We kind of sat in the background on camera because we had infants. And then the lady who was the head of the La Leche League and my mother had a really nice discussion about it. So, it was far-reaching, her show. It covered all kinds of topics.
Yes. And in addition to being on television, she's also heavily involved in the community. I mean, I have a document. She got an award from the Build organization.
Right. Yeah, she was there at the beginning of Build and African Cultural Center. She was kind of on the ground floor with all of those different organizations when they first came up in Buffalo, late 60s to mid to late 70s. She was there doing all those things.
Yes, she's pictured here as a judge for a Miss Young Gifted in Black.
Right. Yeah. Because of her status as a director of community affairs and director of public services, anytime anything happened in the community, basically, she was called upon to, to take part in it. So, one thing about her show that a lot of people may remember is her theme song. My mother was a big fan of Aretha Franklin. I remember growing up and hearing a lot of Aretha.
I heard the song in there, yeah.
Yeah. And she also liked B.B. King a lot too. I remember hearing those growing up. And it was so funny that she ended up having B.B. King as her guest, but she used Aretha Franklin's song called Take a Look as the theme song on her show. And a lot of people never heard that song. You never hear it anywhere, right. But it's such a fabulous song.
Yes, it is.
And the words are even more profound and relevant now than they were back then with all that's going on in our country. So I advise anybody to check out the song Take a Look by Aretha Franklin. You can find it on YouTube.
Right.
And use that song as the show came on. Whenever they went to a station break, and as the show went off, you heard the song Take a Look by Aretha Franklin.
And we managed to, as I looked at the video when it got towards the end, she had some, you barely make them out, but she had clips of a lot of other guests and other shows that she had, and few recognizable faces in the video with Dan. I remember seeing Dan Acker and Professor James Pappas from the Langston Hughes Center. Right.
Yeah, she was involved in all those organizations. She was either on the board or, she as I said, she had her finger in every pie when it came to community events.
And certainly her work in the community seemed to rub off on you. I know you said you were a member of the Buffalo chapter of the Black Panthers.
Oh, yeah. Right out of high school. I remember that well. Yes.
Okay. So over here to Brian. So anything you want to share with us about your grandmother and how her work in the community impacted you?
Just Nana in general impacts anybody she's around. Nana was very outspoken, very unique, not going to hold her tongue. That's just was not going to happen. She's going to say what she's got to say. Sometimes she'll say it in the most tactful way she could, and sometimes she just say it in the most raw way, but it was coming out. Just her personality. She was a great grandmother. She was always thoughtful. I remember being so proud of my grandmother, like telling my friends my grandmother has a TV show in Buffalo, and I was 6, 7 years old, something like. I mean, maybe a little older, a little young, about that age, I guess.
You got to change. You had a TV star in the family, basically.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have any. We only had 3 stations back in the days. Period.
Exactly.
It wasn't like we were inundated with all types of media opportunities, let alone.
Absolutely.
So it was cool to have that. After I remember going up she moved up to Saranac Lake, up in the mountains, up by Lake Placid later in life. Right. I remember going up there, and she worked with handicapped people, and she was very into it. She really loved it, and they all were really warm to her. Every time she came around, she was like, "Oh, this is so and so, this is so and so," and everybody's, "Hi, Juanita." So she was a very personable person. So it was always good to have that around. Everybody has our personality traits, and hers was very dominating, But at the same time, she's a very loving woman. And for that, I'm very proud. I'll miss her a lot.
Absolutely. Marsha, anytime I see this topic here, it's the topic that I'm really connected to. It says in her bio that she spent part of her career where she spent 3 days at Attica during the Attica prison riot. And it's personal to me because I happened to be born during the time of the Attica prison riot. I was born on September 10th, on the second day of that riot. So that's always been I've always been connected to that. So anytime I see something about that, I always have to ask about it. Do you have any memories of her covering the Attica riot?
I just remember her, kind of packing a bag and rushing out to say that she had to go up to Attica, and I can't remember the distance from Buffalo to Attica, but I remember her coming home a day or two later and then going back again. And I remember the cameraman, Roland Barnes, I think his name was.
Okay.
I remember they were WGR, there were two of them, Roland Barnes and Jay Wade, and I think that's correct, who both worked for WGR TV, who went up and they stayed there for the duration. And I think they were the ones that even went into the prison, into the yard.
As observers.
Not my mother, of course. My mother stayed out,
but
the two cameramen from WGR both went in as they were doing the negotiations during the riot, which, as we all know, did not turn out so well.
Yeah.
But she was up there for that whole time during that riot. And then I think I sent you the letter that she wrote. She wrote a letter to, it was kind of like on behalf of WGR, I want to send my sincere condolences to everyone who, lost someone during the riot. And it's on the WGR letterhead.
Right. I did have a chance to read that. So when exactly how long was she at WGR until when exactly did she leave WGR?
I think it was maybe 77, 78. I know it was in the late 70s. She started around 1971 and she was there till around 77 or 78, if I'm not mistaken. And then she went up and moved up to Saranac Lake, New York, in northern New York State. But yeah, she was there for quite a while at WGR TV and WGR Radio. She had a 15-minute radio show that ran on WGR Radio where she covered topics, community topics back then as well. That was in the early 70s. And then after a while, I think she just did the TV show.
Right.
So yeah, it was almost all of the 70s. She was involved in the media.
And like it said in the article that she also was, she always had like this signature style with her afro.
Yeah. And in some of the photos, you can see her afro. That was, we all wore afro.
Style back.
Oh yeah.
It seems like it's come back now. It's made a comeback.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I definitely hope so. Yeah. But she wore her afro.
Okay.
I remember her telling me once that someone at the station, a cameraman or whoever, mentioned to her that the afro looked harsh on TV. I always remember her telling me that. It came across as harsh looking.
Yeah, I've worked in television for many years. That sort of thing still goes on to this day.
Wow.
You have a lot of young sisters that are in the industry, and that are really in touch with their natural hair, and they encounter those same struggles to this very day.
This is 50 years later.
Yeah.
They're still saying the same thing. Well, what are you going to do?
Yeah. Well, in conclusion, talk about what do you think her impact on the Buffalo media has been?
Wow. Well, we moved from Buffalo. It's been a long time now. You know, I grew up in Buffalo, but we moved early 80s. But I imagine that after her show, or after it started,
Mhm.
there were more Blacks that were allowed in the media, because prior to her show, I don't recall seeing Black people too much on TV on a regular basis. I really don't believe so, but I think that when she started at WGR, I think then probably Channel 4, what was it, WBEN or
WBEN. Mhm.
WBEN, Channel 7, WKBW.
Mhm.
I remember that they too decided, well, if it works for WGR, we're going to do something similar.
Yeah,
And then other,
everybody followed suit.
yeah, I'm pretty sure that happened. But I always say that my mother was sort of like the precursor to Oprah Winfrey, because
I could see that.
what she did definitely is what Oprah did 15 years later. And Oprah started, I believe, at a small station in Chicago,
Yeah.
but it was picked up, and the rest is history. And my mother started at a small station, I guess you could say, in Buffalo, and didn't go as far, but definitely she was doing the exact same thing that Oprah became famous for, with the audience participation and
Yes.
variety of topics and such. So we're proud of her too.
And she made a tremendous, tremendous contribution to Buffalo Black media.
Definitely, yeah.
Well, Brian, is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, I just would like to
Mhm.
thank you for
Okay.
everything you do for Buffalo. For
Okay.
those of us who don't live there anymore, it gives us cause I can remember certain things. I remember where Freddie's Donuts was. I remember the record
Right.
theater. I remember Canisius College.
Of
But
course.
when I do tune into your show, I can see certain things and see certain landmarks, and it brings me right back. And it's just good that you've taken the time and the initiative to, demonstrate and show off some of Buffalo history, because there is a lot of great history that came from Buffalo. So we'd like to thank you
Absolutely.
for having us and doing what you do.
Thank you so much, Doug.
And I would like to thank you all for providing this tremendous information on Mrs. Juanita Young Wilkerson and her contribution, and giving the Buffalo History Channel an opportunity to present this story to our audience.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you all for being on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.